I'm not sitting down for this. I'm on my... not gonna finish that sentence.
Hey, what's up you guys? My name is Amber. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a book review for The Earth, My Butt, and Other Big Round Things. I want to apologize in advance if you hear any outside noises. Today it is raining and I'm also in my art studio, which has very noisy fluorescent lights. Before we get too far into this video, I do want to let you guys know of some trigger warnings that are involved in the book, as well as maybe mentioned in my review, including consensual hooking up, suicidal thoughts, discussion about being overweight, body image issues, and other people's outlying perception of being overweight, fixation on weight loss, unhealthy eating habits, eating disorders, self-harm, and rape, specifically date rape. So if any of these topics are triggering to you, I would please recommend discretion watching the rest of my video, as well as if you decide to actually read the book yourself. So The Earth, My Butt, and Other Big Round Things, which is honestly such a mood, let me tell you, is written by Carolyn Mackler and was originally published about at least 10 years ago, maybe even a little bit longer, and was recently republished in the last couple of years as an updated version to include more elements from our current time period to make it more relatable to today's teenager. For example, when the original version of it came out, like, cell phones were not a thing. The main technology advancement was just computers. So in the book, the main character and her best friend communicate over email, whereas opposed to the updated version, which is what I have right here and I personally read. They have cell phones, they have Netflix, they communicate over texting and email, and it's definitely set in a more modern time, but it's not so obvious that it's like, granted, I never read the original version, but I don't feel like it's so different that it's going to be drastically different from the original version. There are only a few points where they even mention cell phones and Netflix and that kind of thing. The book is about 15-year-old Virginia, who is in a family of 5, including her teenage psychologist mother, her well-off father, older sister who is a raging feminist and who is also spending the year in Africa working with the Peace Corps, and an older brother, Byron, who ends up being a very main character in the book, who's considered to be like the star son. You know, he was always the star athlete and the perfect student and all that. And he's currently off at college while Virginia is still in high school. Virginia is on the plus side of the body spectrum. So this is also featured prevalently with her body image, and especially with her family's perception of her body image, because she's the only person who is plus size in her family. So everyone always makes comments about it and makes her feel terrible about herself, and doesn't even give her a chance to even try and be comfortable in her own body, because they're all always encouraging her to try and lose weight and diet and get healthier, except they don't even focus on the healthy. It's just, oh, like, you need to lose weight. And then she doesn't have very many friends. Her only best friend is across the country, on the opposite coast of her for the year. So she very much so isolates herself, and that does not help any of her mental health. So with all of this happening, she already has enough going on in her own brain, let alone issues with her family, when they get the awful news that her brother has been found guilty of date raping a girl at his college and has been suspended for the semester and is now living back home, which obviously infuriates Virginia. You know, she's thinking, like, how could my brother do this? You know, that poor girl. Like, how could this have happened? You know, she looked up to him so much. Like, he was her hero. And, you know, for him to come back and do this completely awful thing, and then he doesn't even try and defend himself or, like, say it was a misunderstanding or anything that happened, because it wasn't. He admits, like, hey, you know, I blacked out. I don't know what happened. So what she says is probably true. I did rape this girl, you know. But what's worse is that her family decides to not even really acknowledge it. other than talking about lawyers and figuring out how they're going to be able to get him back into school at the end of the semester. And so they exclusively refer to it as the ordeal and don't even refer to it as what it is, which infuriates Virginia even more. So she has to deal with that on top of all of her own personal issues and other issues she had with her relationship with her family beforehand. And it completely just crushes her to the point where finally she decides to go through a kind of rebellious phase and ends up doing several different things against her parents' wishes that help empower her and make her feel more comfortable in her own life and her own body. And finally, you know, has the courage to stand up to her family and be like, yeah, I understand. You guys think I'm fat, but I don't care at this point. You know, I just want to be healthy. I don't care what size I am. And, you know, she does her own methods of, you know, getting healthy and, you know, being comfortable in her own body, and eventually, you know, starts reaching out slightly and becomes a little bit less isolative and tries to have good things, you know, brought into her life and coming her way that she creates for herself. She doesn't take her mother's advice and different shit. So my personal opinions about this book are, as triggering as it is, because unfortunately a lot of the triggers that I did mention at the beginning of this video are things that do personally trigger myself, whether it be depressive episodes, eating disorder, relapse, you know, there's just a lot of things are very triggering and very personal to myself in my own life. But it wasn't so bad to where it set me into a bad place mentally. Like, yes, you know, for a minute it was like, wow, you know, that hits home, but it wasn't so bad to where it actually triggered a depressive episode for myself, which I'm very grateful for. And it wasn't, you know, I don't feel like it was all for nothing. You know, there was a point to the end. It did end on an upbeat note. It was a little empowering. Not as empowering as I would have personally liked it to be, but it was definitely empowering and on a more realistic scale, I feel like. Sometimes it's nicer to have things that are more realistic than just completely positive and upbeat and, you know, by the end everything's perfect, because that's not what real life is like. There are ups and downs, and there's only, you know, trying to get better is all that you can ask for. It was a very quick read. I was able to, you know, just a smaller one. I was able to binge read it in a couple of hours. You know, I started it, you know, early in the evening and finished it just later at night. So if you want to check it out, it is definitely not a long read. It is nice and lighthearted. I personally got my copy off of Book Outlet, where I was just browsing and found it. I had not heard of the book previously, and it was just one, I have a problem when I go on Book Outlet to where I go looking for a few specific things, and if I find them, that's great. But if I'm gonna bother ordering, I want to get to the $35 limit, to where if you spend that much, you get free shipping. Because I'm like, well, why would I spend $10 in shipping when I could just get like 3 more books for that price? So I always wait until I have enough, and then I just binge, or not binge, I just like get a whole haul's worth of books. This being one of them, because it sounded interesting. You know, the title I thought was funny. I thought it might be funny and cute. I hoped so, at least, and it was. As serious and heavy as a lot of the material is, it is still, you know, lighthearted and fun, and done in a, I feel like, a fairly well done manner. And it didn't feel like all of the darker topics that are included were used for just a shock factor, or like it wasn't there to just be shocking, and it wasn't there to just have filler and be like, oh, how tragic can we make this character, or characters within the book. Because a lot of them, yeah, there are some kind of, I guess, tragic aspects, but it wasn't so overwhelming. Like, it still felt realistic. It wasn't like, oh, let's do everything we can to make this character, you know, in a bad place. It's like, yeah, you know, all of this stuff's going on, but we're still gonna keep on living. We're still, you know, gonna be realistic about it. So I would definitely recommend this for anyone who likes quick reads. It's definitely like more of a young adult read that involves any of the topics that, again, I mentioned in the trigger warning, because I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't not recommend it to just the average person, but I think it is definitely the most beneficial to anybody who also struggles with any of those issues that are mentioned. I feel like will have the most effect on you and be the most powerful to read. But if you don't, have any experience or are triggered by any of those things, you still read it. It's still, a good read. It might give you some insight into people who do experience those things. And if anything, it took me less than a day to read. So it's not like you're going to be out with a ton of time if you don't like it. So, but anyways, yes, that was my review of The Earth, My Butt, and Other Big Round Things by Carolyn Mackler. Carolyn Mackler. I'm so bad at this. I'm so sorry, guys. If you have any interest in seeing any other reviews that I've done, I will be posting more on this YouTube channel, as well as regularly posting on my bookstagram account at Amber Caitlin Reads, and my Goodreads, which is Goodreads/What is Love is the Weapon. So you can keep updated on any books that I am reading. And if I don't do a review for any of them, please, and you want to hear one, request it and I'll, take a look and try. I know it was really bad today. I'm sorry, guys. I'm getting in the swing of doing reviews for books and stuff that's not makeup, because my only passion is not makeup. I like reading just as much. So thank you guys so much for watching. I had a blast with y'all. Peace.